There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves
Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for virtual attendees. I'm Laura Luna, a friend of the worship committee, and Grace Bruce and I will be your worship associates today. Other members of the worship committee who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wedeking, who is monitoring our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. Welcome to this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. We come to learn more about being in a relationship together, how to listen, to coexist, and build bridges of understanding with those who may hold differing perspectives from ourselves. The spiritual journey is a pathway into the depths of our being and also a journey of transcending the confines of the self. Love reaches out. As fundamentally relation creatures, we long for deep connection with others and ultimately with the great mystery of life. Before we move into the service, there's a few announcements we're going to share. We're going to mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all the information. It's available on our website. Church Council will meet this Friday, October 13th at 4 p.m. in the Annex. Women's Fed will be hosting a potluck on Saturday, October 14th in the Parish Hall at 12:30. All women of the church and friends are welcome. I would like to introduce Adam, our Social Justice Chair, for a special announcement.
Good morning. For those of you who haven't checked it out yet, just down the street from us is the Civil Rights Institute of Inland Southern California. It is a great spot with a whole lot of really interesting stuff happening. I believe this is every other Sunday. They have been holding a Sunday series, and they talk a lot about sort of the intersection of spirituality and social justice. It will continue today. There'll be a discussion about the display that they have. If you haven't gone, it is definitely a good time to go and hear about the display and see the display, which is about Black history in the Inland Empire. There's a few people who will be joining us this week. But again, this is every other week, I believe every other week, but you can check out the website, 2 to 5. They're definitely this Sunday. So check it out. It should be a really great event. Especially if you haven't seen the Still I Rise display there. Really good information, in-depth information about race relations in Riverside, in the Inland Empire as a whole. Lots of good stuff there, so check it out.
Thank you, Adam. And now I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Our speaker today is UUCR member Bill Casey. Bill Casey tries to draw from a number of theistic and philosophical points of view. While this does not always produce an orderly methodology, he takes comfort in the patchwork utility it tends to provide. Bill notes with amusement, if only brevity were included. Originally from Colorado, Bill lives a short distance from UUCR. He has been a member of UUCR for many years now and has been active in the choir and worship committee. Though times and eras may change, it may be said that there is nothing new under the sun. As humans, we continue to wrestle with the same basic questions of personal freedom, individual responsibility, and deliberate choice. How can we, as UUs, identify these issues and stand up for our values in our own contemporary era? We're going to do the chalice lighting now. We have 2 lightings of sacred flames. The first is the Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is a lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original peoples of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was the first sacred space of several groups of Indigenous people, including the Cahuilla, Cupeño, and Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is "We Will Be Renewed" by Lichi. We come together in our tired minds and our bodies with confusion and questions, our certainties and our fears. We come together with hopes, with our pasts and our ideas, our passions and our faith. We come together bringing all of who we are, trusting that in gathering we will be renewed, and that together we can create the world that we long for. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning from some time away. We have a mic that we can bring to you. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others. And so I will ask for a volunteer from someone who's been here a while already to tell us their name and how you found out about the church. We can come to you with the mic today. We ask you to step close and speak directly so everyone can hear you clearly. However, be aware that you will be visible on Zoom, and this is recorded online. Do we have any church members who would like to volunteer? Thank you, Adam.
Good morning. My name is Adam. I first heard about Unitarian Universalism in 2008 when me and some friends at the time I was living in Temecula were protesting Proposition 8 that outlawed gay marriage in California. And we got some really big rallies there in Temecula, and we're really surprised at one point when a church showed up on our side of the issue. And so we got to know the local UUs in Temecula, and a few of us joined the church, the fellowship that was there. They closed down. It was a very small little group. They closed down a few years later. And so I was a member of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, which is a church for folks who don't have a local church. And then I moved to Riverside. And as soon as I moved to Riverside in 2016, I came here to figure out when services were and got involved. And I'm glad I found it ever since.
Thank you, Adam. And that's how it's done. Oh, very If you are new here or a visitor or an old friend, you can come up and introduce yourselves at the pulpit.
My name is Ty. This is our first time here. I'm here with my daughter Penelope. We were searching for a sense of community, and we've done a couple of Zoom Sunday services with you guys, and Penelope wanted to come today. You know, when your daughter comes home from school asking certain questions and don't really have a basis for that in our household, at least. So that's kind of why we're here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. For any of our new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We would love to chat with you in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know who you were, and leave your contact information if you want to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. We are going to sing now. From the Still Hymn. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. We are
This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by using PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater groceries cards, which will be in church each Sunday. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Rowe or Robert Braun in the church office if you are interested in purchasing the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. And to those who give their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Remember that your presence here is the gift for the church. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Thank you. Let's sing together, please. Our next hymn is 402, From You I Receive. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you.
And please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive.
Thank you.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, from this we live. From you I receive.
Good morning. Our meditation today is a shared reading entitled A Litany of Atonement by Robert Eller Isaacs. I invite you to read aloud the bold, italicized words that will be projected on the screen. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit,
We forgive ourselves.
for losing sight of our unity,
We forgive ourselves. And each other. We forgive them.
for those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which had fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves. And each other. We forgive them.
And now, let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. And now I would like to introduce Bill Casey, who will be speaking to us on countering old arguments with love. Bill?
Now, when I started this sermon, I had a vision. It would involve me taking on older conservative problems, and since this is a liberal church, trying to answer those questions in a liberal form. I wanted to tackle, modern phrases as have been done recently so that I could have a response in the modern sense, even though some of these problems have actually been around for quite some time. And I was going to be smooth and elegant and pragmatic and loving, and maybe the small, and just look at the glow of the audience out there, and the words would be good and loving and useful. Ha 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 ha. There's an old saying: "Man makes plans, and God laughs." Now, I still believe that the liberal response is often going to be the best one, makes people happy, healthy, taxable, maybe. But midway in this paper, I got, I don't know, a crisis of faith, perhaps, or the realization that some of the conservative arguments are not without merit. I decided to look at homelessness, guns and political rallies, and the sea of buzzwords that we're submerged in all the time. And I thought, okay, this is going to do pretty well, especially the buzzwords. But this paper has been a challenge to some of my beliefs. You guys weren't here for it, but I did a piece on spiritual duct tape. I'm using it on the fly as we speak. Now, there's a piece in Fox News. So they had a group called The Five Speaking. And Jesse Waters is a speaker on one of their programs there called The Five. And he said that there was a discussion group, and they were looking at some of the tent cities that had formed up in California, which are not looking good. And he said, looking at these tent cities on the West Coast, he says something to the effect of, stop making the homeless be figures of admiration. They're not. The problem is not just homelessness. It also includes drug use, mental health issues, terrible attitudes to everyone, and poor hygiene. Now, there's a podcast out there called The Damage Report. It's progressive, definitely on the other side of the street. John Iadrola is one of the speakers there, and he said something to the effect of, hey, Jesse, when was the last time we actually had a living wage increase that actually put people able to pay the rent? You cannot say that rent is vital and then make it impossible to make enough money to pay it and avoid a high risk of homelessness. Hi, here's this vital thing that you have to have, the money to pay the rent. Oh, look, it's not there. Gee, that can't possibly come back and bite us, can it? Okay, well, now I get a chance to be pragmatic and actually look like I might have some knowledge going on here. It's a chance, mind you. We have a conservative statement. Poverty and homelessness equals icky. We have a more liberal statement, maybe so, but no cash flow fuels homelessness and is also icky. Well, okay, what are we going to do? Well, my solution's maybe we can get a compromise going. You start with pod housing. I don't know if you've seen the things, but they live up to their name. They are about the size of a smallish tool shed. Tiny homes, that sort of thing. The cooking facilities are outside as well as the restrooms. And the camps that they're in can offer counseling to people so that they can deal with some of their chemical issues, shake them off, and eventually get to a better place. And some of them, I'm told, have a setup to where they can move people from one side of the city to the next. And then basically that might keep those tent cities from forming up. Although many people, many of the homeless still tend to favor those tent cities as offering the best independence and the most freedom, which is something we all want. But also the pod housing, I looked, hey, how about setting up something like Section 8, except with bunk beds, a group of 3 or 4 people, but splitting the rent up so that people, again, can take care of each other, pay the rent, and get on with the business of living. They're taught cooperation. The landlord's still getting Section 8 money, so his income is good. And maybe they're on their way up from there to, getting a small apartment down the line. Universal basic income or renter's insurance, or maybe just a job that pays a living wage instead of paying a third or less of the real rent needed to live a productive life. And this would work for this would work for the government. This would certainly work for the people, and it would make people happier. We begin again in love. Not a financial wave of a wand, but not by ignoring the problem of homelessness. We create not just a if you're lucky mode of problem solving, but knowing that the system has an orderly way out of this mess of homelessness. And Mr. Walters, it would be so much more effective if the voice lecturing us on the evil of homelessness was not a multimillionaire working for a news company. Now, okay, I'm feeling optimistic right now, right? Hey, I got good advice. I'm giving good advice. I feel twice as confident, maybe more than I usually feel. Feeling good, right? Wrong. I tackled another subject because God forbid I should ever leave one subject alone. This one had to do with firearms, specifically long arms in crowds, having at social protests. Sometimes the protest is Second Amendment based, sometimes it isn't. But the conservative argument is often a variant of, this is my right. This is not something I need a permit to do. And I can bring my opinion and my AR-15 to an event, to your event specifically. And open carry rights do vary state by state, so I can't state with authority what's happening in all 50 states. At this response point, maybe my response is a bit forked. So far in the brief period that the sermon, where I was trying to run and clarify things in my head, I had two basic responses. One is to say very indignantly, no, you do not have that right. Matter of fact, you stopped carrying long arms and sidearms to desegregation rallies when the Black Panthers started doing the same. According to some folks, the NRA itself persuaded everyone to stop carrying guns to protests, which I would be totally happy with. But I have a forked response here. There are those who say that the casual or open carry of firearms has always been there, at least in well accepted in the southern and western states. In which case, maybe the problem is mine. If I fear firearms carrying counter-protesters flexing on myself or my friends, perhaps the fault is mine, especially if they ain't flexing all that much. I have to ask how much I trust the Second Amendment to the Constitution and my fellow man's ability to carry that out. Now, the Second Amendment to the Constitution should mean something to me, enough to trust it anyway. I hope so, but can I trust others with it? I have trouble with that sometimes. I see the anger and the passion at an event and a protest, and I'm thinking, man, all this and they're packing heat? Oh, I don't like this at all. But have they indeed carried for decades and all of the scurrying to get this paper together? I actually don't know. It seems to me that they stopped after the Black Panthers started carrying long arms. But, and I'm sorry to mention such a thing in the middle of a church, but this stuff scares me, and I'm trying to create a world where we can basically keep from doing something rotten to each other because our temper is not sufficient to exercise the control over the physics of what those things are. Now, maybe some ground rules of not being within 10 feet of a picket line when you've got a gun in your hand, something like that would suit me and make me happy. But I gotta say, when my friend asked me how much I trusted the Constitution and its amendments, do I trust it enough to trust the people I consider as opposition in the liberal tradition? If I do, what does that say about me? And if I don't, what's that say about me? But we begin again, like the song said, in love. Maybe not so much trust this time, but we do begin again in love. You know, that optimism I was feeling, that chance, that belief that I had it lined up, not quite as strong as it was. But I've had a couple of sets of friends who had objections to some of the conclusions I'd drawn and had shared with them while I was writing. It's funny when, or not so funny, when you have a learning, when work and a learning experience hit at the same time. Matter of fact, there's more than one time I've seen it as a joke. Oh, dear God, don't tell me it's another learning experience. Yet I seem to be in the middle of one. There's always a reason why some political, ethical, religious, and civil disagreements take decades to resolve and often end in bitterness. But we begin again in love. We continue perhaps in weariness, but we continue in love. Now it's the time. What? Okay. Timing turned into something slightly nebulous along here. Ordinarily, this would be much smoother. However, here we are. As I said, spiritual duct tape, and I thank you for your patience. Now, we come to thinking about the words we use on the opposition and the words we use occasionally on our friends. Now, the right needed a big bulldozer of a word. They found it in the use of the word woke. Although, if you press them, they've also used radical, socialist, and communist, sometimes in the same sentence. But yes, woke. It's a strong word. You don't define your opponent as resisting you in any specific area that you can talk out. The goal is to make us appear surly, brutal, and unreasonable. And if they can't define the word woke, it simply joins all the other words that they haven't been able to, that they can't or won't define specifically. The job is to avoid precise definition, not to summon it. But unfortunately, the word woke can also be used when you're nagging an ally to do something that you want them to do. This is one of the areas where a friend of mine also had some objections. In this case, the word woke would be a conditional, retractable statement that you make. Am I woke? Well, am I doing A, B, C, D, E, and down the line of everything that you want me to be doing? If so, I'm woke, just like a dog that is performing tricks for a biscuit. It's you can and if you're using the word woke, you could use it, for example, in the racial sense. You could look at how race is being used. Some people would say that it's so important and creeps into so many things that it should be used 10, 20, 30, 40% of the time. Is it, however, is race going to show up? Yes, it does. In a poor neighborhood, your chances of breathing diesel because you didn't have the money enough, because the rich people could force the trucking routes out of their neighborhood and into yours, is right up there. To say that it's not there as a hidden force, be cautious. It can be, but not every day was my opinion. I'm not going to sit there and make there's 52 weekends a year, and I'm not going to spend 20 of them talking just about race. I'm going to be looking at environmental issues, how we treat each other, psychology, our connection with the divide. And I'm not going to give up 40% of that turf to anybody. But if it is relevant, and if it isn't relevant, again, we have to ask the question, what next? If I'm skipping something, I'm allowing problem to continue in my society amongst people that I love. If I'm on it, I risk becoming boring and background noise. Another word that gets overused is ally. And perhaps even more than the word woke, it tends to be used or overused by the left on the left. The use of or rejection of this word can get pretty emotional. Nobody wants to be known as a fair weather friend. You want to be known as an ally, a good, solid buddy. And they're realizing that I personally have limits on how much of an ally I'm willing to be strikes a chord. There's a certain amount of shame in it, I must say. In there, if there are, for example, trans athletes in sports, as opposed to trans people overall, there are about 1 million trans folk in the There are about 1 million trans folk in this country. The country has 320 million in it. So that 1 million of people is approximately 1/3 of a percentage point. It used to be that politicians would say, if you're 1/3 of a percentage point, I can safely ignore you. But if you're a member of that group or know someone who is, you don't really want to hear that. Certain things that trans folk are going through, all back to the bone. They should have their vote. They should never risk being called ugly names or risk physical violence. They should be able to go to a public restroom. After that, when it comes to the idea of professional athletes, I suddenly find myself saying, I hope it works for you. I'll cheer for you, but I'll also cheer for your opponent. I am, in that case, an ally is not a pawn. An ally is not a wooden leg. An ally is not a drone. An ally is with you about 80% of the time. And then after that, it's like, whatever, dude, or wish you luck. But it's not heavy duty. And I think that the word ally has been overused. And there's that point where, you know, when you're a young kid and you want to say no in the middle of an apartment, of a grocery store, you're tired, you're done, no. It's a short word, it's powerful, makes you feel strong when you're a kid up until you get regulated. But in that sense, ally is a word that gets perhaps overused. We shouldn't be using our language to beat up on people. We should be using it to solve problems. And we shouldn't be using our language to strong arm allies or friends into doing every single thing we want them to do every single weekend, every single day. Re-examining these words becomes pretty darn important. Hold on. Remember, we're so maybe I guess we review things for a second. The homelessness issue in modern language is still the repulsiveness of the homeless issue versus the need to fix it and the fear that it could get worse. Certainly with the fentanyl epidemic, it seems to be on its way. But we begin again in love. We find a way to improve the problem using pod housing, improve Section 8, and rent control, and so on. Score one for love. In terms of firearms, I guess I'd call that a mild loss because I have to say I cannot utterly read the souls of all those people with those firearms. I don't like seeing them at events. I do believe that we did stop doing that. But it seems that we're starting back up again because, let's face it, a liberal is not as intimidating to the mind of those folks as the old school Black Panthers were. I think they will probably keep doing this for at least a few more years, and all I can do is hope that things will not get broken up. Buzzwords are rough. We've been swimming in them. Sheeple, snowflake, woke, ally, and scores of dog whistle. We could keep going for a few after that. But maybe the last buzzword is the one that can get us out of some of this mess. Is this the hill you want to fight on? it tends to be a pretty thoughtful word if you stop and think about it. It generally means that this will be a hard to win argument. It will be hard to argue over. You will spend a great deal of energy doing it. You will take losses and you will gain very, very little. Pennies on the dollar, if that. But I think the homeless, looking at the whole list, I think that obviously the homeless can expect some help from me. And I need to think about what's going on in terms of the, I think I can think about what's going on in terms of the protests and at least be a voice for peace and for calm when I'm at one of those things. When it comes to being an ally, I'm good for 80%, 60%. I would like to say I'd be at 100%, but I believe that would be the divine that handles that and not me. I'll do what I can to do better. But maybe the tiebreaker is that we can speak more clearly and more lovingly without the buzzwords and just talk to each other human to human instead of through a screen of words that solve nothing and do nothing but divide us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with our church, we speak about a lot of social issues, current events that are going on in the world today. And we try to explore those issues through our own experience and also through the lens of our principles there on our church. And so there is no final correct answer to any of these issues. As Bill was saying, homelessness, gun control, what do we call it? Verbal weaponization. These have always been around as tools to fight, or to argue with one another. And sometimes they're not used correctly. And how many of you out there would think that society is getting a lot more complicated these days? Who would say, right? It's becoming more and more difficult to have like a considered conversation with each other. And so we have to be careful because words matter. And we can't come to any kind of discussion if we are in a divided state. We have to, come to the table and meet each other in the middle and discuss these very difficult and complex issues with a rational and a spiritual approach. Not fight, but try to solve and resolve the solution. So that's where we're at. And I think Bill's message was to begin again in love. So despite our differences, we want to talk to each other and find common ground. And instead of fighting for what's right, fighting for our own rights, we should try to agree with one another and come to some kind of solution. Would you like to? Actually, let's wait until we finish the service and then we'll do the whole Q&A at the end. Okay, go ahead. Just right now.
I went to UCLA and studied economics for 10 years. And I didn't get what I was looking for. What I was looking for was a way to solve the poverty problem in the third world. Well, now we have it here. And I have a chance of dealing with it. 1 month ago, we had Alan Ridley and another man who are affiliated with the church talk about their projects for building affordable housing for poor people. And afterwards, Ellen Ridley gave me a book by Mason Gaffney, who was an economics professor at UC Riverside. And since I read that book, I've read two others, and they're based upon Progress and Poverty, which explains why we have the poverty is because of speculation. It drives up the cost of doing business and drives down the wages that we can pay. The wealth of the land is what could solve the problem. If we charge rents or higher taxes on land and lower taxes on the improvements, which include businesses, we would have an explosion in GNP. We'd have an explosion in jobs and explosion in economics overall. Australia did it when they had the opportunity. Instead, we're on 18-year cycles in which the price of the land gets where everybody's children are out losing their property. And anyway, Mason Gaffney, here's the book I'm reading now. It's called Beyond Brexit. And it's by UK was skeptical about staying in the European Union, but they're missing much of the opportunity because they don't have a mandate yet. If I'm being obscure, it's because we really could double our economy by changing our tax system from the ancient regal system of giving tracts of land and then having ownership held by one. We are the people, and the land should be profit for everybody. And we could have services, we could have unlimited government funding, and just by the populace understanding the economics behind it.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay. So we can have further discussion after we end the service. Let's see. So our closing hymn now is Heart Wide Open by Leah. The words will be projected on the screen. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you and stand and sing and join us in enjoying the music if you'd just like to follow along. Thank you.
Keep your heart wide open, though the waves wanna push you around. You gotta keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep my heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Though these waves wanna push, though they want me around, though the waves wanna push me around, I'm gonna keep my heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Until my faith brings me back to solid ground. We gotta keep our heart. We gotta keep wide open. We gotta keep our hearts wide open. Though these waves wanna put us around, though these waves wanna push us around, we gotta keep our heart. We gotta keep wide open till our faith brings us back to solid ground. Till our faith brings us back to solid ground. Say hi.
May whatever gatherings or activities we engage in this Sunday afternoon help restore us, our connections to one another, our sense of hope, beauty, and fun in this world, our deep knowing that we have to take care of ourselves and each other with love and joy, if we are to so fully survive the world's mayhem. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. Thank you, Bill, for sharing your valuable time and insights with us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for another 10 to 15 minutes to share some discussion or observations from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. And be aware that these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you are now welcome to adjourn into the parish halls. Oh, okay. And Alec does have a mic if you'd like to make comments where you are seated. Do we have any observations on the sermon today? Okay. You're okay. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. Oh, Walt. Walt.
Okay. For it.
I just wanted to say that the original talk is always a wonderful thing. So I appreciate that talk and I liked it a great deal. I have yet to figure out what the word woke means other than it's a dog whistle. And I tend to hate it because I think regressive views that are hateful and looking to scapegoat love to use the word woke instead of saying what they really mean, because if they said what they really think, it would sound very mean, vicious, and hateful. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, on the mic. Good job, Bill. Thank you. And I also discovered if we can't hear, we can use these little things. That was a nice discovery. Yay. Machines do help.
Very nice. Okay. So any other comments? Anything online? Nothing? Okay. All right, then we're all adjourned. Thank you for joining us this morning.